Lady Natalie? Good evening and welcome to our regular school board meeting. If everyone would stand for a moment of silence and your intentions, and also a special prayer for Debbie Stivender's niece and for the 6 young people that were injured in a boating accident in Key West on Sunday. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Superintendent, do you have any changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, I do. I would like to pull 8.12 for no action tonight. That will come back at a later time.
Board members?
I would like to pull 8.09 and 9.09 for discussion.
8.09 and 9.09.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who does the approval?
Okay, at this time, I'd like to recommend approval of the minutes from the special school board meeting of May 18th, 2015, special school board meeting of June 1st, 2015, special meeting of the Financing Corporation, June 8th, 2015, regular school board meeting, June 8th, 2015, school board workshop, June 22nd, 2015, and the regular school board meeting of June 22nd, 2015, as presented in board docs.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We have no representation this evening, so we're ready for public input.
Okay, Mr. Tibbetts? If you'll state your name for the record.
Stephen Tibbetts. Mr. Chairman and board members, I was disappointed last week when you approved a request to hire a textbook manager. The situation regarding the textbook inventory control is not a function of needing another person, but rather one of accountability. Imagine for a moment you owned a car dealership and began the year with 1,000 cars. At the end of the year, your 3 sales managers exclaimed, "We sold 974 cars." And you then ask, "What happened to the other 26 cars?" And they replied, "We don't know." Do you think you would hire another person to find the cars, or would you hold them accountable? The ASPD department a few years ago realized they need to get a better system in place, purchased Destiny for close to $250,000, paying an annual fee of $57,000, only to have your auditor exclaim it's not being used properly. Furthermore, little was recovered from students for lost books. Teachers and principals and staff just reply, "We don't know where they are," when asked about the missing books. Creating a managerial position in a department that has shown inefficiencies in 3 of the 4 areas of its responsibility makes little sense. Rather than creating another layer in the textbook fiasco, Dr. Moxley and her staff need to address the many issues identified by your auditor in his report and totally re-examine the ASPD accountability issues. 2 other points that I would like to make is, in regard to changes in the budget, you have some flexibility. Here is one of them, to not have that job approved. The second one is there are a number of vacancies, including a highly expensive administrator that we filled his job for, I think it was 2 weeks this year, and did the rest of the year without him. I would recommend not filling that, and you would certainly have sufficient monies left over in both of those decisions to help teachers not have to pull money out of their pockets to teach their schools, which is horrible, and there is money to be had and forget these strategic plans. Don't be locked into it or think for 1 minute that you don't have some flexibility in controlling the budget and how the district is run. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tibbetts.
Any other, is that it for right now?
Oh, we have no other. That's it.
Reports, Mr. Johnson has is the next item on the agenda. Push it again. It was on. There you go.
Just one thing for informational purposes. Ms. McLeod has been subpoenaed to testify in the case that's currently pending with the DOE and the Southern Legal Center, I believe is the name of it, regarding, it's one of the several lawsuits that have filed over the last couple of years for adequacy of services under the Constitution. There's been a number of other administrators from different school districts. Ms. McLeod has not expressed any opinions that got her invited, so we're not sure exactly why she was going, but just want to let you know if you see something about her testifying in one of these, it's not with her complete willingness, and she's been subpoenaed and made to come to this. It's actually, at the moment, the Department of Education has been subpoenaing huge amounts of records from school districts all over the state. I don't think we've gotten one of those requests. I'm talking about $15,000, $20,000 worth in man hours of preparing documents and records. But it seems that both sides are kind of turning back from that, and we still might have a possibility where Ms. McLeod's deposition would be canceled before it came up. But just in case you had heard about that, I just want to let you know why that was happening. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
We have no other reports, and we have one item for unfinished business, and this Mr. Johnson will handle. It's on.
Ms. Brandenburg has filed actually 2 Form 8Bs, Memorandum of Voting Conflicts. The first is she abstained from participating in a vote on at the July 13, 2015 meeting. It was an item for the collegiate high school, which could potentially inure to the benefit of her employer, Lake Sumter State College. The second was for the same meeting. There was a second agreement between Lake Sumter State College and the school board that was presented. That, again, was July 13th, 2015, and she abstained from participating in the vote on the basis that it might inure to the benefit of her employer. All, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to recommend approval of the consent agenda 8.01 through 8.08, 8.10, 8.11, 9.01 through 9.08, 10.01 through 10.05, with agenda items 8.09 being pulled for separate consideration, and 9.09 for separate consideration, and 8.12 for no action tonight.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope.
8.09 is the internal audit plan for 2015-16. Mrs. Luke, I believe you pulled that one.
I did. I was thinking after we received Mr. Mock's report on the Academic Services Professional Development Unit, and we are talking about financing a position that would oversee textbooks and library, media, et cetera, and so forth, that it might behoove and be beneficial, especially if we're talking about upcoming procedures for next year that we can look at in September and October, instructional coaches, in lieu of all of this discussion that's come out, that it might benefit us if we had Mr. Mock look at the academic services unit as a whole, rather than parceling it into professional development this past time, and then curriculum and instruction is scheduled for this year, and teaching and learning is scheduled for the following year, and all three of those components fall under the academic services unit. And so I did speak with him briefly today about the possibility of maybe moving the teaching and learning audit up to be in line with curriculum and instruction, so that we have a better picture of our academic services unit in its entirety. So when we're talking about instructional coaches, when we're talking about materials managers, when we're talking about curriculum maps and blueprints, and all of these very, very extensive pieces that are intertwined within our academic services unit, that we might have a better picture of where we can streamline that process, where the overlap is, and so forth. So if the will of the board would be to change his schedule up a little bit, and I'm not sure what that looks like. I've not done this before, so would we just vote on a change and then he brings it to us?
What I'd like to do is ask Mr. Mock to please come forward, because his plan is on the agenda as written. So I want to make sure board members, and Mr. Mock is your second employee, so I don't direct his work, you do. But I do know from the fact that his plan is on the agenda as presented, we would need to make that change. And what would that change look like, Mr. Mock?
Yeah, the overall plan is obviously driven by the amount of resources we have, which is
Right.
me. So obviously, it would just be a juggling of the hours. I mean, if something on the plan could potentially come off or be delayed till next year, and then, like you said, move the teaching piece up so that I do those two together. And then just making sure I have enough hours. I'm assuming roughly about the amount of time that I have for curriculum I would probably need for the teaching piece as well. Or I might get a little bit of benefit from doing the two together, a little bit.
They're in the same location,
Yeah,
at least.
exactly. Might be a little bit. So I have to look at it. We talked a little bit late in the day for me to pull it up and look at it today, but I could look at it tomorrow morning, however you want to do it. But
So could I make a motion then that we,
Well, I
Hey,
need
can
to-
I ask Mr.
Please.
Mock something, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Tom, is there anywhere in here that you specifically put them in order as to when you're going to do it?
the date, roughly I put in the month, if you see on the far
Where's
right,
that?
on the far right of the plan for the upcoming fiscal year. Don't look at the 5-year plan.
Looking at the internal audit plan 2/15/2016?
Correct, on the right-hand side.
Oh, there's a month, okay. So,
That's the approximate time, the month, the
so
month.
when would, which one would you change to accommodate?
That's what I would have to
West.
look at. I can't,
Then, since you're needing to look at it, would you want to table this?
Well,
The board, yes,
I
school.
don't think there's any problem with going ahead and passing it and come back and making that change to it at the next meeting.
okay.
that's what I would recommend, is go ahead and pass it, and then I can amend it and bring that back for approval.
I think we go ahead and just approve it too, so you can start working.
Well, I already have, but, because it is the end of July, so.
Okay, go ahead, Stephanie, you have a motion.
And the recommendation, I recommend that the Audit Committee and the Director of Internal Audit recommend approval of the internal audit plan for the fiscal year 2015-16, inclusive of changes or revisions, as presented.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Go forth and audit.
Great, thank you. 9.09, and I believe, Ms. Luke, you pulled that one.
I just had a question about this one, and I'm not sure that they're related, but I thought if anything, it was a good point to bring up. I know at the bottom of the description of the revised description, it said that the employee has 6 months to receive certification in the area that they're employed. Is it that time at the end of 6 months, if they didn't receive certification, they would just be terminated as a part of their contract
They're a probationary employee at that point. When they're first hired,
for 6 months?
well, actually, it's a year.
Okay.
Is the probationary time.
Okay. Okay. I was just concerned because of the situation with the athletic coach that wasn't paid at the end of the year for Umatilla High School because of the certification and all of
That's
that.
a whole different.
Okay.
Different.
So when I read this, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Okay.
That's
That was all my question was. Thank you.
Good question, thank you. At this time, I'd like to recommend approval of the revised job description for the career technical education teachers. Thank you.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Then we're moving to the discussion agenda. This first item is final approval of the 2015-16 Code of Student Conduct and Policy Guide. This particular agenda item, this is a public hearing. It is the final public hearing. This particular document is our Student Code of Conduct. It was workshopped. We did make some changes to it. It did come for tentative approval, and it has been duly advertised for the 28 days. So at this time, I want to recommend final approval for the 2015-16 Code of Student Conduct and Policy Guide as the district-wide school discipline plan to reduce inconsistency in discipline management and provide safe and secure learning environments that promote higher academic success.
You've heard the superintendent's,
Steve.
you've heard the superintendent. We're going to now hear from Steve.
The matter before the board this evening is final approval of the 2015-2016 Code of Student Conduct and Policy Guide. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to this approval, please come forward to the podium at this time.
Just two brief comments. The bullying issue still has that clause, social inclusion, in it. I think it needs to be taken out. And more importantly, as the board, I would hope you would direct Dr. Moxley to have the people in charge pay attention to bullying. They mentioned 50 incidents that happened last year. Having been a disciplinary officer for 15 years in colleges, 50 incidents of bullying probably represents a week or at worst a month's worth of incidents. It's not being paid attention to. I don't care what you approve on paper until they pay attention to it. It's really not very effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tippett.
Anyone else that wishes to speak to this particular issue? Seeing no one further come forward, Mr. Chairman, I believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
Okay. But now what do I do?
It's discussion.
Oh, any discussion?
You're ready for your motion and discussion.
One item we talked about last time was on the opt-out page, making sure that was really clear, bold, underline, all that stuff. But on the, I don't see those changes yet, but those are.
Miss Sabrina, Miss Dylan Banks, can you please come forward? We need to pull that up because those changes were to be made. On the opt-out page, we were to clearly delineate some things, and that was in the tentative approval that we had. So you may have been on vacation that week at that board meeting, but I need to make sure that we're confirming that those will be made.
Yes, those changes will be made before we send out for printing this week, so those changes will be updated. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify for Mr. Tibbetts, wasn't social exclusion was in the statute. There was language within the statute.
Yes, ma'am.
Definition. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You make the motion?
No, I made the
So moved.
The recommendation before I did the.
Oh, okay. So we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, the next item is tentative approval of the deletion of School Board Policy 5.301, corporal punishment. This is your policy that specifically gives permission and to have corporal punishment. We took it out of the Student Code of Conduct, so it would make sense that we align the policies with that. So this action is tentative approval to delete a policy. It still has to go through a public hearing. It has to be advertised and come back for final approval. If you want to leave it on the books, that's a decision you can make. But at this time, I want to recommend tentative approval for the deletion of School Board Policy 5.301 entitled Corporal Punishment.
Mr. Chairman, we're calling it deletion, but on the one that I printed out, there's one sentence left in the policy. Lake County Schools prohibits the administration of corporal punishment. Was it our intention to leave that in there, or are we going to delete the whole thing?
I was deleting the whole thing, but I will
We can do it either
pause
way.
to the board to see, do you want a policy that has one sentence in there? Because I was reading it that if you didn't have a policy permitting it, we weren't doing it.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't think it makes sense to have a policy.
But if you want to make a strong statement that there's no question that we absolutely cannot do it, then you may want to leave the policy in, or may have a policy with one line.
That's
I
up
don't
to
think
y'all.
it's necessary.
And it potentially causes some issue about if we start to have a policy to tell people to do things that are not authorized, that they can't do those things, and they're already not authorized to be done, then we don't really want to go down that road with all the potential issues.
We could have a whole lot of policies that say not.
We could have a
That's
lot of
fine.
one-sentence
Okay.
policies.
Okay.
So we should delete it. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then, the issue before the board this evening is the tentative approval of deletion of School Board Policy 5.301, corporal punishment records. Is there anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to this particular policy? If so, please come forward at this time. Mr. Chairman, I don't see anyone coming forward and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And so the record's clear, Mr. Chairman, that's a tentative approval to delete the entire policy and not have a 5.301 at the moment.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay. Superintendent's report?
Sure, I just have a couple items. We did briefly talk about the MPO Summer Summit to focus on safe access to schools. That is Wednesday, July 29th from 8:30 till noon at the Mount Dora Community Center. We look forward to that. We will have some staff members that will be present at that, and we will advertise that so that any board member that wants to come. I do want to do a highlight for some employees. One is Scott Fender, who is our supervisor for transportation. He was elected the association president for the Florida Association for Pupil Transportation at the summer conference, so he will be serving in that capacity this year as a state leader for all transportation directors and departments. The other thing that we received our Certificate of Achievement of Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for our CAFR. This is the 12th year consecutively that we have received this honor. So I do think I want to publicly thank Carol McLeod and her staff. They work on that in the fall each year, and it's a lot of work that goes into that. But Carol also has been, is assisting GFOA as they are redesigning their reporting forms, and so they are actually using Lake County as a model in that work, and Carol has been providing a lot of the structures and protocols and procedures that we have in place and being used to design that for across the state. So that's exciting, and actually the United States with that. The other thing, and I did briefly mention this, but the other day a huge plaque was delivered to our front door, and the staff, I mean, it's a huge plaque. She wouldn't let me bring it tonight, but Mrs. McLeod actually sat for a specialized certification for finance officers, and this plaque came recognizing her. It is her credential, and she's very humble about it, but she is one of two in the state of Florida that have earned this special certification. So I think that's a big idea. So it's nice to have such credentials in our staff. The other thing that I want to share with you is the Boy Scouts. They are doing a Learning for Life at Lake Sumter State College here July 27th through the 31st. It's this week. And they are focusing on science, technology, engineering, and math. And so it's a day camp. It's a STEM day camp. So that's a great opportunity for our students. Back to school sales tax holiday runs August the 7th through the 16th. We did get a tax information publication. We have put that on our website. There's a lot of good information for parents as they're doing that. And I think that may conclude my report.
Mrs. Luke.
I wanted to congratulate Mrs. McLeod also, not only on her accomplishments, but she's also speaking at a conference. I believe you were invited as the keynote speaker, just a speaker. Gotcha, but that's excellent. So thank you for representing our district in that way. Stepping Out for Education was fantastic fun on Saturday night. It's always nice to raise money for education and have a good time doing it. So thank you to all of our community sponsors and the community members that danced and did a great job. And congratulations to Gus on a double night win. That was impressive. And the last thing I wanted to mention tonight, and I'm really excited, is I am doing Coffee and Conversations with, I'm super excited. I've been wanting to do it and just haven't had the chance to get it aligned. So Senator Alan Hayes and I will be meeting on August 8th. It's a Saturday morning, and we have no location determined yet, but we will have a location soon. So I figured I'd get the date out there. So excited to do that. That's all.
Well done.
Great.
Mr. Don?
Got the specifics on Coffee and Conversations with Commissioner Sean Parks, and we'll do it on Friday, August the 7th, 8 to 10 a.m. We settled on the Dunkin' Donuts there on 27 in Mineola, and our special guest will be Sheriff Gary Borders, so we think that'll be draw a great crowd. Two items I want to ask about. One is a few months back I had asked for a summary of school offering comparisons, as we were in the context of the Lake Mineola High South Lake rezoning. I said that, we were starting to notice some disparities just between those two schools, and if we broaden that perspective, compare those schools against some of the ones on the north end, we might find even a greater disparity. And so I was wondering if we might be able to look at those before the final approval of the budget. So if we need to make some changes, I guess where I'm mainly thinking of CTE offerings. I know that to add a lab is extremely expensive, and it seems like this would be the time that we would be able to allocate for such a thing, because I think the budget only has for replacement of equipment, nothing new. Any kind of timeline?
I can respond to that. I do know that I think the curriculum department, and I think you were working through Dr. Christensen, we're working on that. I will follow up with that and make sure you get that. I will tell you that we did authorize a second foreign language offering. They did do a survey. I was thinking they were going to look at Mandarin Chinese. I know that they were also exploring Latin as a second language, and I certainly support that. I think with the health the health program, the Health Sciences Collegiate Academy, that would be a very good complementary offering for that. We also did increase a CTE. They are going to be offering the GIS CTE program, and the software that we have, we already have the software for that particular program. One of the other programs that I know comes up every so often about Lake Mineola is they have commercial art, and they're the only one that has commercial art. Well, it's interesting because South Lake has digital design. The curriculum, the industry certification that the students sit for, and the software is almost identical. In fact, the industry certification is identical. There are some slight nuances between the commercial art, but the credential's the same, the software package is the same. There are a couple of skills that may be different, but virtually students that want commercial art, we can serve them through digital design at South Lake High School. So there are some things that we have been looking at and breaking down, but I will bring you a full comparison.
Yeah, I think.
Actually, I will do the 3 schools.
Well, I was mainly trying to make comparisons between those schools and the north end.
I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't get that clarification. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We were looking at those schools in the south end, but if you're looking, we can give you, Maggie Teachard already has the schedule. We have the CTE offerings at all high schools, so I have that. I mean, I can get that booklet to
Perhaps
you tomorrow.
maybe AP offerings and there's other related kinds of things. I think was the direction, or any other specific programs that would be maybe a
I
law
knew
for
that
students.
you were looking at this, I thought it was the south end, so that's what I thought they were working
Okay.
on, but I will make sure that you get what you've asked for.
And then the one final thing I guess I'm looking to further understand is how the district is making any progress on the hazardous walking conditions, and if we have started to try to go after any of those dollars that based on any of the conditions.
Actually, I will tell you that is scheduled, but right now I have them working on the 1 mile and getting bus schedules. So we have buses and schedules prepared and ready for students and parents so that they know where the bus stops are. We're doing that work first. So that's the first thing. The second thing, because Will is working with some GIS partners to help us do that work. But we've got, now that we know what our radius is for bus transportation, they've got to do all the scheduling for that. So we've got all hands on deck on that. So that's first, and then we'll start working on the hazards.
Do we expect to be able to meet any kind of timeline to identify those students and receive funding for them?
They will, as soon as they get bus schedules out for the pre-planning, so when they're doing orientations, they'll immediately start working on those others. And because the FTE is when you have to have some of those done by.
Okay.
So, but I just don't have the capacity to do both at the same time.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Mrs. Brandenburg.
Thank you, sir. I, too, want to say congratulations, Carol. That is a huge accomplishment to be one of only 2 CFOs in the state to receive the certification is outstanding. So thank you for what you do, and congratulations. Last week, I attended the Value Adjustment Board meeting, and we hired a new attorney for the Value Adjustment Board. And I want to congratulate Carmen Cullen-Batt and Doug Major and Mariah Delgado and the Foundation Board for a terrific event. It spanned over 3 nights, and a lot of work went into that. And so I just would like to say congratulations, and it was a great event. On Thursday, from 4 to 6 p.m., you've seen the Red for Ed campaign all over the county. There have been drop-off points for school supplies. And on Thursday, from, like I said, 4 to 6 p.m. at Wooten Park, people can drop off the donations of school supplies, and there's going to be a weigh-in to see how much in school supplies that have been donated. And then those school supplies will go to the Apple Marts in the 3 locations to help teachers throughout the school year with school supplies. Thank you.
Also, on August the 1st, there is a boot camp started in Leesburg High School, and it's the first of a model. And Sherry Owens, thank you for getting the word out on that. And I know that our vocational, virtual, I think, and the superintendent have all been engaged in working with Yolanda Presley, and I think it's James Presley, I believe it is. Right? Okay. And I would like to just, again, shout out to our chair, Debbie Stivender, and let her know that she's in our thoughts and prayers, and to the 6 young people that were injured in Key West that are all Lake County graduates. Oh, they all graduates Leesburg? All graduates of Leesburg High School. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Mathias, for chairing our meeting tonight.
This was fun. Done.